Niagara Region is currently encouraging residents to complete an online survey on equity, diversion, and inclusion. The survey closes December 1st. Here to talk about it is Regional Chair Jim Bradley. An excellent idea to collect people's, feedback on these three topics.
It's the kind of thing that has to be done in all regions now, and certainly in our region. The composition of the region of the country is changing, in the province, and each region in the province as well, and we're not outside of that. We joined the UNESCO municipalities who are involved in inclusiveness, and because we wanted to do that, and all 13 municipalities signed on to it, we felt that we have to find out information about what is happening. First of all, getting a demographic picture of the region, because that's changing. The patterns of immigration are changing, and the age group of people are changing as well. So we're getting all kinds of information on people with disabilities, people who are older and people who are younger, people from various ethnic backgrounds, religious backgrounds. We're trying to find out what their experience is now in Niagara. What kind of experiences do they have? Is it welcoming as they'd like it to be? Do they face discrimination, or do they seem to be able to be accepted by others and included by others? So we're looking for that kind of information from people. We have a survey that is being taken by the region in niagararegion.ca, and it'll close, as you mentioned, on December 1st. When we get that information, we'll be able to develop policies which will enhance inclusiveness and diversity even more than it is now, because people who were here 50 years ago, when the region started, for instance, in 1970, now 51 years ago, would recognize as a different region today than it was then.
We look at those people, and those people 50 years ago looked a lot more like you and me.
That's exactly right. And that has changed considerably. So we think it'll be very helpful for all people, not just those who would feel discriminated against, but others who want to find out, do those people feel welcome, and how can we make them feel welcome, and how can we include people of various backgrounds and abilities and so on.
Can you give us some ideas? You mentioned some services and some programs that might come out of this. Can you give us some ideas of what that might entail?
Programs for seniors, for instance, and listen, there are seniors who have a more difficult time. If you're from an ethnic background and you're here more recently, chances are you may not have a knowledge of the language that is as you'd like it to be. And so therefore, providing services to seniors where they feel comfortable is going to be important. So we would look at trying to employ people, for instance, who would have those language skills, who might have those cultural backgrounds, that would be able to serve seniors in that regard.
So this could actually have some effect on hiring practices at the region.
It could certainly have that. And we have to look at our municipalities and our businesses out there and say, do they reflect the community as we think they should? As you recognize now, Mike, there's a great demand for employees. And so I think that would be helpful for people who may have faced discrimination in the past, when the employers are now looking for employees and find they have to go outside what they normally might be looking for. I think that'll be helpful to people who, as I say, people with disabilities, for instance, who certainly can continue to be in the workforce, or perhaps older people who want to come back into the workforce, people with different ethnic and religious backgrounds. And so it's nice to have that kind of information available. We can gear our policies to it.
On another level, you mentioned employees at the regional level, municipal level, I should say. But one of the things that I can look at the councils, if I look at regional council, I look at the councils in the 12 municipalities, largely white. Again, how do we encourage people of other diverse ethnic origins to run for council, to make some changes there?
We have to provide information to people to say, look, there is that opportunity for you to do so. If we look more at the province, for instance, if you look at the provincial legislature, and
that's changed a lot.
I spent 4 decades in the legislature. It was largely white men when I started out in 1977. By 2018, it had changed, and this time around again, if you see the legislature in action, you'll see it's much more diverse than it was before. And I would say the same is true of the federal parliament. So that's starting to happen at the national and the provincial level. We want to encourage people to at least take that opportunity to run for public office. And I think that they'll find that more and more people are accepting them for what they can bring to that office, as opposed to looking at what ethnic background or religious background or whether they have a disability or not. I think more and more people are seeing it in that light. And the more we can demonstrate people coming from those various backgrounds actually in those jobs and performing those duties, the more that you're going to see it reflected in the elections that take place and in the hirings that take place.
This is timely as well. We've got the Niagara 2022 Canada Summer Games coming up, and that's a big focus of those games, is equity and inclusion.
No question about it. People are coming from right across the country. You're going to have people of various backgrounds who are there. Each of our municipalities, interestingly enough, is adopting part of the country.
That's
Newfoundland,
right.
Quebec,
Yes.
and so on, Northwest Territories. So that'll be interesting to see how that turns out, because again, provinces, well, right across the country, we're seeing significant changes taking place in the demographics of the country. We will see it in the athletes who are here and their families, and we want them to feel welcome here in Niagara, and I think we can do that. And we'll be looking for volunteers from that background. Remember, when you're asking how can people become involved, they're looking for a few thousand volunteers for those games. And they're welcome.
Some interpreters.
It's great to have that, interpreters, and people will feel comfortable dealing with people of their own background, for instance. And I think that's a great opportunity for us to show our welcoming state here in Niagara.
What has the response rate been like for the surveys so far?
The response has been good. We're happy to see it coming in. It's December 1st, so people still have that opportunity. And we think it's going to be very valuable for all of us. I'm glad you mentioned the Canada Games, though, because I've been to the Canada Games previously. I went out to Red Deer, for instance, and you see people of various backgrounds who are participating in those games, and it's great to see them. You bring athletes together, and it makes a huge difference. Around here, for instance, one sport I think of, and this sport is going to be featured this year as one of the sports available, and that is lacrosse.
Right.
Well, the Indigenous population, of course, is very familiar with. They started out lacrosse, and there are a lot of Indigenous individuals who are playing lacrosse. So you're going to see them from across the country, and I was really happy that we were able to persuade the Canada Games Secretariat to include lacrosse as one of those games, and that'll be played in the new building that's going up now on Brock University's campus. A building, by the way, which is going to be spectacular, and I think a good showcase for Niagara, and ultimately will be used by the people of Niagara, but initially for those sports.
On another note, Jim, the region just produced a video and posted it. It's called Here For You Niagara. What is that all about?
That's allowing the people of Niagara to know what the role and responsibility is of Niagara Region. And we want people to know the services that we provide. There's a great transformation taking place now. There's a council that's generally new. Great council to work with, by the way, out there trying to provide services for people. A lot of people aren't aware of the specific services the region provides and the accomplishments that the region has had over the past few years. So the video is going to share that with the people of Niagara, and we think it's going to be very valuable for them. We're asked the questions, the video answers a lot of those questions.
Well, we encourage all of our viewers to go out, take a look at that video, and to fill out the survey as well on niagararegion.ca. Thanks for joining us, Jim.
Happy to be with you.